Hello everyone, I'm Vidas, and today I will be hosting this webinar, and our topic is related to planning and estimations. I will be talking about Agile way, how we do it in Agile, and of course, I think for some of you this might still be an early morning, so I hope you are relaxed and, well, you will hear something interesting, and it will come to your mind that you even try in your own environment. So today's agenda will be, first of all, why we're doing this and why there matters in planning and estimations, how different techniques may be applied. Of course, there will be a short introduction into Agile process in case someone isn't as familiar as the others could be. Of course, later we will talk about the essentials of the planning. We will provide few guidances and methods how the planning could be done in a very different way. And of course, later we will proceed to estimation part. And well, during the whole webinar, I will definitely show demos how to achieve such techniques in Eylean board and how these techniques can be applied to a team collaboration. And during the whole webinar, you will be able to ask questions for me. And well, there will be time after the webinar where I will try to answer all of your questions. So do not hesitate, just write questions in this GoToWebinar tool. There is a tab called questions. And well, as I've said, later I will read them out loud and try to answer. Okay, so let's start. Let's dive into our very first approach. This is an Agile. And well, one main question, why Agile? Why we choose new techniques? Well, basically all of us probably heard a tiny bit of information. Well, old methods like waterfall aren't so robust, they aren't so responsive for nowadays projects, because basically lots of customer needs are changing. Day by day there are new requirements arriving. We have environment that's very dynamic, thus we need to always update our plans and schedules. So the very first thing that comes to mind is that there is potentially wasteful resources spent on planning whenever the plan is changed. So well, Agile is more of a cyclic development where we work in iterations and cycles. Well, for Scrum we work in sprints, for Kanban we work in iterations or goals. And yet those iterations and goals, they are short in their length, and they can vary from 1 week to 4 weeks and so on. But basically, the main reason is why we do so, because we want to deliver value without wasting too much resources on utility tasks and on tasks that must be discarded when unexpected happens. And well, as we know, the Murphy law says if something can go wrong, it will go wrong, and initially it does. So in Agile, we plan, we design, we manufacture something, we ensure that its quality is deliverable, and then we deploy it. We produce it to our end user, end customer, and we repeat the cycle. So in such short cycles, we save time, we save ourselves a risk that we need to throw up the whole plan of a project in case we fail one cycle. So Agile is a kind of an insurance policy for you. So traditional planning in Agile looks like, I've already told, like there's iteration. We calculate amount of effort that we can accomplish during 1 week or 2 weeks. Then we freeze that effort. Well, by effort saying, I mean we define tasks. We decide upon which particular product, items, or whatever you're making will be shipped. Then we build, manufacture, or develop something, and we'll repeat the cycle until the project is finished. Now, it looks like a very good discipline, yet somehow everybody looks at Agile as a panacea, as a solution, as a cure for all the diseases in their project management environment, because, well, there still be delays, there still be late products, and sometimes we will waste too many resources in the places we shouldn't. And today I will provide an idea which is called more of a diversified planning, or planning on demand. And now if we look at the slide, here is a projection of the whole rectangle. Represents the plans, the effort that will be produced during some kind of iteration in the project. And of course, this rectangle consists of 3 different types of tasks that are included in the plan. First of all, let's talk about software project. Well, I myself, from software developer side, I'm an engineer, so, well, I will be talking from the thing that is closest to me. Let's imagine we're developing a website for a customer, and we have main features waiting on the list of backlogs. So we say start iteration, we collect features that will need to be developed. Then we need to reserve a tiny space for fixes, because, for, let's say, our product is already live and we cannot push our fixes to later weeks or later months. We need to provide them as soon as possible because customers are waiting. So this fixes rectangle already lowers our capabilities to deliver more features. And of course, there is always a risk that each of project managers should take into account. There will be definitely some force majeures, unexpected tasks happening, or tasks, or even customer support tasks. So, well, if you're doing some kind of product selling or providing some service, you definitely are doing support. And, well, sometimes when support requires particular engineer knowledge, it will eat their time, it will consume their effort, and they will leave even less time for their main features. And those 2 red and violet rectangles are the ones we don't want. Why? Because they don't bring value, they don't earn money, they just consume something. Only the main features provide us money. So our target is to plan as much as we can, but still make sure that the risk which will happen inside of a cycle or iteration won't ruin our plan too much. Or we want to be able to do fixes whenever we want, not whenever it needs to be done. Well, that's an ideal, that's an ideology, but basically in real world this isn't happening. And, well, we must approach in a slightly different way this whole scenario. So this is what I often talk to our customers about planning in chaotic environment, in a very dynamic environment. Let's imagine a team which works on simultaneous projects at the same time, yet the employees are interconnecting through projects. So their plans are very, very dynamic, because one week there might be lots of tasks from project A, in the next week there will be lots of tasks in project B, but engineers jump from one task to another, and we cannot make very strict plans, because if we would plan for 1 month with this customer, well, after 1 week we will need to throw away the whole plan, because the environment will be changed so much that we will need to replan everything. So that's a time waste. That's the thing I'm talking. Now, the proposed method sounds quite simple, yet it needs some work, because it won't be so straightforward. First of all, this is the Agile board, and this Agile board consists of very, very simple columns. Probably you're familiar with this task board approach already. Something we have done already, something we are doing, and there will be some items that needs to be done. Now, the difference in here is that, well, we have our pipeline. Let's say our process is called a pipeline, through which we push our work items. So first of all, I have a limit of 2 here. It says that I, for instance, have only 2 engineers that could produce work items, and it means I want to limit them multitasking, and of course this number is a control valve, how many items I want to let down the stream. Also, this is a number which offers us prediction, and it offers us some kind of a calculations for the backlog. So in this approach, there is another column called buffer. Buffer is an amount of tasks minimum needed for our employees to keep occupied for at least 1 day or so, and this buffer will keep everybody occupied until planning is finished providing new backlog items. Now I will just quickly switch to Eylean board to show a little bit more of a playful example. Let's say there's pretty much the same board. It has yet P2 and P1 columns. That's even 2 buffers, I would call. So our work routine is going on. People are working on tasks. They are doing something, finishing items. The items are traveling from buffer to doing, from doing to done. Now we are all set. Every person in a team doesn't need to go to the manager, project manager, and ask, okay, I finished my current work, what should I do next? There is items always in the line, waiting in the queue, and they are the most important items to be done next. That is also like a documentation of a process. Whenever a person finishes the item, he can grab one and start doing it. And this buffer goes on. When the buffer, well, with these electronic boards, you also, as you've seen here, I cannot overflow my process. It's configurable. Now I have configured it to allow some kind of override. So there's a problem. Whenever someone does reach the limit, it also notifies that, well, there is a slightly more tasks than should consist of. So the team should make a decision whether to put the items back or move them forward faster. Now, getting back to this planning method. Whenever the buffer empties, like tasks will travel, and they eventually something will be finished and the backlog will become empty. When the backlog becomes empty, this is the sign that we need to do the planning. This is the sign that people soon will need new work items to work on. This is the trigger, empty backlog. And still, we avoid the risk of having the team stall, having them working on nothing, because, well, they still have a buffer, P1, which consists of minimum tasks equal to the pipeline stream, and there are priority 2 backlog buffer, which consists twice as much tasks. So we're all set, and we don't need to worry about rushing us the same second we see the empty backlog. It can take up to 1 day. So basically, let's return to the slides. This called is planning on demand, and this is the trigger. With this method, you win in few most hard and dynamic cases. You don't plan too much. You always control your streamline. You always occupy your teammates, and you always have something that needs to be done next. They are aware of the situation, and you don't need to invest your time in planning ahead too much. Well, I know there will be projects, big projects, where they will be needed to decouple the tasks. We will need to estimate each one of them, but we can do a rough estimations, rough plannings, and then when we get into details, we can use this lightweight method, which will produce a very, very advanced values for your team. Now, of course, this was done by task numbers. The other thing covering the whole planning and estimating is using of the right estimation techniques. So first of all, well, let's switch once more for the board. Most of electronic tools allows us to use estimations, And basically what everybody does, they use hours. This is so easy. It's so easy to estimate. Everybody understands. Whenever a manager asks, how many hours will you spend on this task, you can answer, well, maybe 8, maybe 7, maybe 4. Well, you always have some kind of an understanding how much this task can take. Yet there are a few problems with this approach. Well, of course, like in some tools, you always estimate, like you can estimate task, then you need to measure the exact time tracked because you want to see how accurate you are. So you're already using two different measures. One is the real estimation, like in here, and then you track time. Well, in Eylean you can just track time with integrated time tracker or do it passively, just clicking and pressing hours and showing the progress. But this also consumes time. Whenever we want to be very reliable, very precise, we will use hours, then we will drive ourselves crazy when deciding is it hour and a half or is it 2 hours this task, because our project manager is kind of hard on us because he would like to push our limits to be very efficient. So person has 40 hours in 1 week, so he would need to push all the tasks into those 40 hours, and each of the employees will think, okay, I have 40 hours, I might use some kind of risk controlling methods like increasing my estimations. For instance, if I'm asked how much time it will take, instead of 4 hours I will tell 5 or 6. This keeps me safe because I won't be late, and I might have some spare time for Facebook, Skype, or whatever. So this is where estimation by hours gets us. So basically, there are two types of estimations: for precision, hours, and the second one that I will be talking a little bit more is story points. Story points comes from the Scrum. Well, in this whole presentation, I've told it will be about Agile, and what I'm doing, I'm mixing up those methodologies because as you've seen, planning on demand uses limitations from Kanban. Kanban is a lean methodology and Scrum is Agile methodology, but both of them are intersecting quite well, and they can produce a very nice results. And this whole move to the very different approach comes from methodology called Scrumban. It's a mix of those two. So, and story points goes into Scrumban because, well, they are more of a freedom-like points, and they gives a little bit more relaxed environment for the team members. So it needs to be understood from the human psychology. Well, believe me, I've consulted a few clients which were confused a lot about the story points at first. They said, well, but it's like abstract value. Why should we use it? We have hours. Hours tell something. I can feel what an hour is. I can say my people are working 40 hours a week, so that's fine. I will give them 40 hours of work. But that's not a problem. The problem is that whenever a person is pushed into estimating in hours, he needs to commit himself to agreeing upon something. Then whenever agreeing, as I've told already, he will try to be safe and estimate. There is even a joke probably you've heard of, like everybody's estimating and multiplying the estimation by P. It's 3.14. So that's a huge misestimation, and the project cost can grow in this way very easily. And well, later on we will be shaking our heads why the hell we did not finish project in time and why we need so much resources. That is of the very basic causes of estimation. And of course, story points make people relaxed. Story points are just an abstract values. For instance, we say we have 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, and so on. It is just a number. It doesn't mean anything. It means size of a task. How do you measure by story points? You pick the smallest task and you pick the largest task. You give number 1 for smallest, and you give number, I don't know, 13 for instance, or 21 for the biggest. And then you estimate other tasks according to that. Basically it works really well when people feel more relaxed about estimations. They don't need to commit themselves, and they don't need to follow those commitments because there is none. So basically, in any agile method, you can use story points, which means some kind of a value. It says like 6. I measured this task 6, task C will be 2, and for instance this one will be 4. Basically, these are the sizes of my task, and after just 1 week, I will know how many story points I can produce. This will be my speed, and I won't be bothered about working 40 hours. I won't be bothered of a support, because won't need to estimate support. And well, what is support estimation in the end? We cannot estimate how many time we will spend talking to customers and how many time we will need to resolve their problems. Alright, we might say it's not more than a day, but it might take 1 hour, 15 minutes, or 5 hours. So that's a huge deviation. And with story points, you estimate only the tasks that matters the most, the new features, the new products, or whatever brings value for your company. Then, when you have your own speed, you have the understanding, and now you can proceed upon improving that speed. And also, there is a great value that comes into a team spirit. Sometimes, well, we cannot choose or buy every ideal employee. Sometimes there will be stronger people and weaker people in our team, and some weaker people always will be on the edge that, well, they are being compared to everybody, and when estimating, some for instance senior engineer will say, this job needs 4 hours, not 6, and that person, weaker person, will think, alright, I need to tell 4, I need to tell even less hours not to show myself that I'm weak. So story points are abstract value for individuals. One person can measure in one sizes, the other on the others. So it leaves a lot of freedom, and it removes all the community feelings that are negative upon your team. So collaboration becomes easier. And of course, like in Eylean, you are free to measure in any points you like, but basically story points should be measured in Fibonacci sequence. Fibonacci sequence is a sizes of values where the next member is calculated by summing up the previous two. So, well, previous like 0, 1, 2, then 3, then 5, then 8, then 13, and 21. Why is that so? Because when estimating not in hours but in sizes, you need to have a good feeling of a difference between a task or a work item, because that difference makes a lot of changes in your project estimations. For instance, having decided upon is it 4 hours or 5, you might often push it to 5, but having to decide is it 3 story points or 5, or 5 story points or 8, there's quite a good gap which gives you that feeling of the distance between work items. And of course, this always provides a lot of more approaches. There are different aspects that can be talked also. But today I want just to compare the two, hours and story points. So first of all, the precision in hours is highly required because, well, each hour means money. If you're working on build hours or your project costs your company some money, so you need to do as less hours as possible, but that's bad. It loses focus on the things that matters the most. Well, the one and probably the only one negative side of story points is that it has integration period, because what I have already seen, hours is so straightforward and it's so easy. You can start estimating by hours in a matter of seconds, but story points needs a little bit of thinking, and story points needs at least one cycle or iteration to see how they work. and to see the speed of people. So it's up to you whether you are able to invest 1 week to see the progress and receive the revenue from that, or you want to keep estimating by hours. I'm not saying that hours is a bad approach. Neither I was saying about that planning where traditional agile planning way is bad. It doesn't fit most of the cases. There are some particular areas where this can be applied, and for instance in hours are very good when you're working on hourly built projects where you need to make some kind of a reports for your customer. So you won't avoid hours in there. You will need to estimate. Then you will need to provide sheets where you say, we worked so many hours, so you pay us so many dollars. That's it. But to go on, there are other cases, and all of those cases are perfectly fit with story points. I can assure you that, because, well, what we tried was starting by software development companies, then moving on to manufacturer companies, and it doesn't matter. It just needs to break that point where people start believing that story points are way better of the values, of the psychological human values that I told you earlier. And of course, one more, a good argument why hours waste time, because they need additional measure. You need to track time to see if your estimations are any good. So that's additional task, that's additional routine that could be avoided. And of course, can be personalized. Yes, hours can, everybody will be looking. Hour is the same for John as hour is the same for Peter. But, well, might be John has a higher qualification and he's doing things way faster than Peter, and Peter will feel bad because he won't be up to speed of John. So, well, that's a thing of a comparison. And of course, each one of them gives you benefits, as I've already told. Precision for hours and freedom for story points. Now, the next thing which I will cover are two very different examples of planning and estimations in two very different companies. So, first one is a company using in accounting business and using kind of agile approach, but still they're doing plans according to financial year, financial quarters or months. They have repetitive tasks like reports and account information for month, account information for quarter. They repeat this month by month. So they plan on monthly and quarterly basis, and they estimate in hours. Why they estimate in hours? Because their business model requires them to be very precise on hours, to be competitive, and to match best employees for the best clients. Because some of the clients has specific areas of expertise, and thus they need specific employees with the expertise. So they measure hours, they track time, then they compare which project was effective and which not. Then they change their workers, switch places, and see how that works. They have lots of benefits through this approach because they have increased efficiency in client-employee match, and that works really well for them. This is a good example how hours aren't such a big bad dragon which hurts your process. And, well, as I've told you, it is applied in some good places as well. Their next company is a software manufacturers, which are working on quite loose process because they are developing a product, and they constantly get new customer support tickets. They're getting new feature requests. Their environment changes. I know, not weeks but days. So they can, if they plan too much, they eventually will throw away that plan, and that will be time spent not really well. So they need loose process. They need as less utility tasks as they're possible. So on-demand planning is working really well for them because they can be relaxed and they can plan a little bit ahead, they can start doing things, they accomplish them very, very fast, they deliver the value, and they then get back to newly changed environment to grab new work items for the next week's plan, for instance. And of course, they're using story points just to measure the size of a task and just to predict, because they know the speed of a team. They can even sum up different employees, and they can provide a speed of team. It's the same as a car. If you go 60 miles per hour, you can push a little bit to make it 70. This is the same in the team. If it goes like 50 miles per hour, it can be pushed a little bit next week for, I don't know, special release. So they can push themselves and provide like 70 story points instead of 50. So this is actually the speed of a team. Now, also in estimating by electronic tools, there are lots of additional features and value that come from that, because basically when you will be doing estimations and you will be completing work cycle by cycle, you won't need to calculate all the averages and all the average points completed by 1 week. You will have, sorry, it's my fresh workspace, I don't have lots of data, but you will have averages. You will always have the sites of measured speed. So this will give you a very bright understanding what are your capabilities and what your team can accomplish. And of course, by employing such techniques in electronic tools, you will be sharing that information with the whole team, and the whole knowledge will produce a legacy of straight and documented process, what needs to be done. And of course, there will be always something to look at and know what is the next important item to be done, which items are small, and which items are big. So basically, that's it for today's webinar. I think I've covered at least the basic approach of these very innovative ways of mixed methodologies, how people can look at planning and estimation. And now there will be some time for your questions, of course. Also, you are free to visit our website. It contains a blog as well. There will be blog posts regarding the estimations, about planning and sprints, iterations. You can read a lot of good info in there. And of course, if you have something on your mind later, you can just print screen or write down my email so you could catch me up and drop me a line with your concerns, or maybe if you need some consulting. So let's get back to question side, and let's see what you guys got here. There is a question about the recording of the meeting. Yes, it will be posted, definitely. I will provide the links to the people who are willing. And of course, you can just enter in YouTube Eylean board, and you will definitely find out even earlier webinars, and well, you might even get a grip of what was going on in earlier sessions. So webinar recording will be put also in that channel. Maybe more questions? I'll be here for a few minutes, so take your time. Think of your question if you have an idea, and I'm here for you.